Hello, welcome back to Zestology. It's the podcast all about health, biohacking, and mindset. I hope you're having an excellent week so far. And today, my guest is the founder of the summit, What We Crave, with some incredible guests. This is a focused expert summit addressing specific issues around weight gain, cravings, emotional eating, all things to do with food, really. But when you see the people that Errin Smith has brought into this summit, it is just unbelievable. In fact, Erin's been a friend of mine for a long time. There's a lot of sort of biohacking chat in this podcast, and she's one of the most well-connected people I know in the health, wellness, and biohacking industry. In the summit, you'll hear from doctors, psychologists, health pros, some of the biggest names on the planet, actually, the likes of Zach Bush, who you probably have heard of, and you've probably heard him on this podcast, Josh Trent, Dr. Dan Pomper, again, both on this podcast previously, Angie and Arlen Fletcher, who haven't been on the podcast, but I'd love to have them on because they're brilliant, and so many other big names. And today, I am really excited to be talking to Errin. I've known Errin for probably almost 10 years, almost as long as I've been doing this podcast, and yet we haven't recorded one together up until now. And it's not just around eating and addiction, we also talk about life transformation and how that relates to diet. I hope you enjoy it. Here is Errin Smith on Zestology. Errin, how are you?
So good. This is going to be so fun and so full circle. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, you and I first met when we sat next to each other at the Bulletproof conference quite a long time ago.
Yeah. At least, 10 years ago, maybe. Yeah. Amazing.
And our sort of paths have crossed a few times in the intervening years, but we haven't caught up in a while. So we've basically just recorded not a podcast's worth, but we've just had a good old podcast length catch up before the start of this.
So good. There's so much. Yeah, I know. This is going to be so great to talk about. Oh, so much has happened. Yeah.
So for people who don't know what you do, you're a health optimization expert. You're a podcaster yourself. You've got an interesting and varied history in the world of health. And I've always been interested by how many spinning plates you keep going. So sort of tell people what you're up to at the moment.
Yeah, well, it's kind of cool to see how purpose will show itself to you. And over these past few years, I've been in the health optimization space for 15 years, but over the past 5 years, I had a massive experience with disordered eating and that binge eating, emotional eating, stress eating. And that really brought up what I do now, which is I run, produce, and host the What We Crave Summit. It's a women's health summit on binge eating and what's at the root of food addiction and this struggle with food. And so that's what I do now. And that's one of my favorite things to do because so many people are struggling with it, especially if you're in the health industry. It's a huge topic because not a lot of people will talk about it, right? Is like that disordered eating and being a health nut, all this stuff that a lot of people sweep under the rug. So I'm excited to talk about that. And then I'm just obsessed with health optimization, just like you, and how we can absolutely crush life and live our best life. And, I'll be 43 next month. And I love that, the normal is, we're defying a new normal. And, with, a lot of people think you're supposed to feel like crap and look like crap at 43. And I love showing people, hey, doesn't have to be that way. And, it just feels so good to be fully in your purpose, and not under the corporate thumb like I used to be.
Well,
right?
yeah. I know a little bit about that as well. By the way, don't worry about your microphone. It's fine if it just hangs down. Otherwise, it was distorting a bit there.
Oh, okay, awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's been interesting for me because obviously when I met you, I was working for a company. They were very nice to me. But now just to be able to make my own decisions and not answer to people that I don't really respect, that's just lovely. I love that.
Oh, it's the greatest test. It is freedom is the ultimate thing I think we're all after. And man, your soul it'll show up in ways. With me, it was that eating disorder that my soul was just craving for me to step into my purpose. And you don't realize it till you get on the other side. But man, there's so much gratitude for those moments where you feel like your soul is being sucked dry because that pushes you into your purpose, And you and I are both very grateful for the path that we now have now. Yeah.
Deep down, we've got sort of levels of intensity that other people maybe don't have, which is why when I first met you and you said, yeah, I'm keto. And I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. And then I ended up doing it as well.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
actually a lot of people in this sort of health optimization world do tend towards the slightly obsessive, which is why we need exactly the sort of thing that you're doing for people now more. I have 100% got an addictive personality, and I've had a lot of years of therapy for addiction. Now,
Yeah.
not food addiction, but now that is actually something that I have to sort of keep an eye on fairly carefully because I do like to eat a lot, and I don't really actually chew.
That's
Yeah.
I get that. Well, it's interesting because it's like addiction is addiction. And I love understanding what's underneath it because it could be food, shopping, porn, it could be working out, it could be alcohol, drug. It doesn't matter. There's something going on, And so I'm obsessed with I love like obviously we're obsessive about health because once you lose your health, it's like you realize how important that is. But but you can't just look at diet and exercise. There's so many other things to look at because you could still be the healthiest person and have an addiction issue and you're not looking at it,
Mm.
and that's what happened to me. So yeah, it's been the wildest ride of, we're both health nuts and yet we still there's always work to do, and looking at our shit. Yeah.
That is true enough. There is always work to do. Even when you think you've got it nailed, you haven't quite, have you?
No, it's never. I know. I feel like it's just constantly unfolding. I think a lot of people in the health optimization space think that, oh, we know it all. Like we're dialed. And then life will be like, no, you're not. Let me
Yeah.
just smack you on your ass and show
Yeah.
you got some work to do. Yeah.
So obviously you produce what we crave, and there's a couple of things that I've seen come up within what you do, and I want to ask you about it. Shame fasting, which is a term you
Mm-hmm.
coined, and denial keto. So
Yeah.
shame fasting and denial keto, both of which don't sound great.
I know, right? There are terms that I coined that just something that I went through that, oh man, it's just a big mirror. It was a big mirror for me. And, this is for anyone that's struggling, like this was just what I went through. But I coined this term because I got myself shame fasting. My friend also calls it hate fasting, where you hate yourself so much, you're going to say, I'm going to go on a fast and lose this weight because you're in so much shame that you put on weight. So I
Mm.
think, a lot of us being in the health industry, if you gain weight and people see you gain weight, like it's like you're kicked out of the tribe, that primal instinct of, oh,
Yeah.
I know it all and I'm gaining weight. What? And people might look at you and you might feel rejected. Again, that's a self-worth thing, deeper rooted. But, for me, I remember I was trying all the keto things. And this was at the height of my career, the most miserable I had ever been working for corporate life. And I was binge eating on keto and I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to hear it at all. And then I would gain the 20, 30 pounds and then I would fast it off. So people would say, oh, Errin, you want to go to like up to Malibu this weekend? I'm like, nope, I got to do a fast. I'm doing a fast. It's my monthly
Mm.
fast. I'm, for health purposes. No, it wasn't. It was me trying. I was in so much shame that I would fast to lose the weight. And then what would happen is I would get in a vicious cycle. I would fast and then because you're fasting for 5, 6, 7, 8 days. I did 15 at one point because I had like 15 pounds I had to lose, right? And I remember, well, I'm in keto now. Now that I fast, my ketones are in 3.4.0. I gotta stay in keto. So I drive myself up to the Bulletproof Cafe and just go binge eat all the keto food, right?
Mm.
The ice cream, the scones, the burgers, the whatever, anything keto, as long as it was keto. And then my gut would blow back up and I would look like I was pregnant because I didn't break my fast the right way. And I'd gain the weight back. I would even add, the dairy, the fermented dairy and all these products that tasted like ice cream. So my gut would have SIBO and it would blow up and then I'd fast it off again because I'd gain the weight back and I would be so stuck. I did this for probably 2 years. And that's when I started What We Crave because I'm like, something else is going on with me and I got to figure out what this is.
Yeah.
But I had a disordered eating problem with a healthy name to it, like
Mm.
I was fasting. No, it wasn't. You were just in a lot of shame and you hated yourself. That's what I called it. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I mean, it's sort of you've been in this world for a long time, as have I now. And I think
Yeah.
one of the biggest problems and one of the things I've really been focusing on in the last couple of years with my background in NLP is
Yep.
combining the two to say, actually, you can try all of the supplements, try all of the diets, but what a lot of us need in this world is just a different mindset. Because
Yes.
when you start reducing the stress and the anxiety and the sort of unhealthy thoughts around food, that can have a huge impact in terms of your health. And I think that is what a lot of people need in the biohacking world.
Oh, yeah, because you become so obsessed with health and optimizing your health that you forget that health is looking at your trauma and your triggers and all your shadow and your shit and all the hatred that you've stored, all the shit that you've stored in your life that you're not willing to look at, all the areas that you need to work on, that, whatever that is. Like, people, because you can't see it, I think people in the health space don't even look at it. But like with biohacking, there's devices and supplements. And
Yeah.
with this shit that's underneath all of it, it's so you can't heal if your nervous system is dysregulated from all this emotional shit you're storing. And that's what happened to me. And that's why I was in denial keto. I call it
Denial keto,
my type of keto was denial keto, which is I'm in denial that I hate my life, that I'm completely miserable with my job and my life, that I don't want to hear it. I'm going to numb out on everything keto because that's the only joy I have in my life right now, because I'm so fucking miserable and disconnected from myself. And I'm saying that with compassion and grace, even though I sound very intense right now, because I know how it feels to be just completely lost and disconnected from yourself and purpose and humans and hugs and fun and love when you're working 20 hours a day, 7 days a week for an abusive narcissist, things can be very intense, and food was that was my crutch. That was my joy. It was my drug. And that's why I started What We Crave, because I'm like, I'm still numbing with food and I know better and I'm still doing it. And I was in denial. And so I just, you saw my before and after pictures and all the weight gain. It was all emotional stuff. It had nothing to do with, it was just, it was a deeper issue. I was craving something deeper than food.
Yeah. I mean, the link between the mind body is there time and time again, not only in the literature and the science, but it's just so clear, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a challenge actually, because I put together this course called the Healthy AF Method, which is great. And it's had incredible feedback. It's people using mindset techniques to get healthier and to sort of optimize and heal and transform their health. But like me, most people would prefer to have a wearable that gives them like a fancy printout than do some mindset work.
Because it is the hardest thing to look at when you're looking at yourself, because you got to own your shit and you have to go, you know what? It's the self-awareness piece of looking at the stuff where you're not showing up fully. You're not being honest. Like I truly feel like triggers are a roadmap. And so every time you get triggered, for me, I would stuff with food. But now when you have a trigger, right, you have to go into that trigger and you got to look at what's going on. I call it going to the trigger gym, because you got to work that shit out. Right. And so you go to the trigger gym, because that's exactly what you're talking about, is like, it is mind. It's everything inside of you that you have to look at. And if you don't, it'll keep surfacing and you'll keep attracting shit in your life that will constantly force you to look at it. And that's what was happening to me. So yeah, it's like, if only we could hit the easy button with a wearable. And it's like, no, dude, it is the ultimate self-work. Like, if you really want to if you really want to soar in life, I feel like that is what the number one thing you got to look at. And it's just not talked about in the health space. Yeah.
I got a great email today from Gary Vaynerchuk, who is not everybody's cup of tea, but he said, all the darkness and negativity and all of those who are being nasty to people, snapping at people at the coffee shop or the airport or the bosses and managers, the ultimate strength is to be able to absorb somebody's poor behavior and not allow it to trigger you. Yeah. And that is such a good point. And it's actually very liberating when you think about it like that, isn't it?
Oh my gosh. It is the ultimate. I think that's the ultimate sign that you've done a lot of work on yourself, because I remember I would get so triggered and I would point the finger at my boss, my narcissist, the asshole on whoever, you point the finger outside yourself and you're blaming everybody else, but it's actually a reflection of what's going on with you. So you got to turn it on yourself. And when you can actually dive into those triggers, there's it's a deep dive into yourself, and where you gotta, the things you got to look at. And man, after a year, well, I'd say 1 to 2 years of heavy, intensive work of looking at my triggers and a bunch of healing work, when your nervous system is regulated, it is the ultimate freedom, because nobody can touch you. And that's all you're doing. That's exactly what you're talking about is.
So all the diet stuff, all the keto stuff was almost like an external food metaphor that wasn't working, and what you actually need to do is to do the proper work rather than just like follow a different diet.
Oh yeah, and it was what was the ultimate like root of all of it was self-worth.
Mm.
And because if somebody triggers you, it's bringing up something in you that's going on with you. And so every time I would get triggered by my boss because I had no boundaries. I call it doormat syndrome, where you don't have any boundaries and your people just walk all over you and you let them out of people pleasing, because it's again boundaries and self-worth, right? Always goes down to self-worth. And once I've actually started to heal that shit, which is a deep dive, long story that we don't have time to talk about. But once I started to actually dive into it and heal that, oh my gosh, my whole life changed. I left that job. I got a new job. I moved. Things around me started healing. I got myself out of debt. Like the things that I was being buried under, I was finally clearing. And it was all related to self-worth. And it's funny because I heard that so many times and now I understand. Now I understand it. But it is that's the ultimate life hack, is looking at self-worth. Yeah.
Yeah. And is that now, I guess, at the heart of your summit?
Yeah, it is. Self-worth and worthiness and your connection to yourself. Because I think I interviewed Mike Collins, and he said addiction is just looking for God in all the wrong places. And addiction is the opposite of connection. So when you're completely disconnected from yourself, you will find addiction in whatever flavor, whatever flavor choice you want. But that's what it comes down to, is a disconnection from yourself. And again, that's in the health optimization space. We're looking at physical self, not your actual, like as a soul, as a human with purpose. And for me, I was so disconnected from myself, from other people, from my purpose. I was disconnected in every way possible. And that's where the monster started to show up. So once I reconnected myself, then everything, it's like the quest to find peace from the inside out is what it is. But that's all with yourself. Nobody else outside of yourself can do it. And that's all I was doing, was looking outside myself, male approval, boss approval, lifestyle approval, doing all these things, when really all I had to do was turn the mirror on myself and reconnect to myself. And that's essentially the first step in healing all that shit. And it's always self-worth, and it's always you. There's nobody else. It always starts with you. No biohacking tool could ever do that. And that's the work that a lot of us don't want to do, because we hate looking at our shit. Like, who wants to look at your own shit, right? So but that's where all the magic is.
And often we just think we've got it sorted.
Yep.
But we haven't.
Yep.
Do you know if you're getting enough magnesium? Because 4 out of 5 people aren't. Interrupting the podcast for one moment to say, this is a big problem, because magnesium is involved in more than 300 biochemical reactions in your body. And right now, I want to talk to you about the most common signs to look out for that could indicate you're magnesium deficient. So, are you irritable or anxious? Do you struggle with insomnia? Do you experience muscle cramps or twitches? Do you have high blood pressure? Are you sometimes constipated? There are loads of other symptoms, but those are just a few questions. And here's what most people don't know. Taking any magnesium supplement won't solve your problem. I've been trying out a few new electrolyte brands recently, and frankly, I've been shocked at how many of them use really suboptimal types of magnesium. That is why, in terms of magnesium, I exclusively recommend Magnesium Breakthrough. It's the only full spectrum magnesium supplement with 7 unique forms of magnesium that your body can actually use and absorb. If you go to biooptimizers.com/zestology and use the code zestology10, you can get gifts with your purchase this month, up to 2 travel size bottles of Magnesium Breakthrough, so you can take it with you on your travels as well, especially if you go somewhere hot later on this year. So if you go to biooptimizers.com/zestology, this is a limited time offer. Use that code zestology10. That works all over the world, works on the UK site as well, which is biooptimizers.co.uk. Remember to use that code zestology10. And remember, it is really important to make sure you're getting enough magnesium, but magnesium that you can actually absorb. That's it. Back to the show. And then I guess in terms of, like, we were talking about how keto sort of played quite a big role in that. and you were keto when I
Yep.
first met you, and then I was keto as well. And I actually started a keto company for a while in the UK. And I certainly think now, and I'm interested to know what you think, that keto sort of had a moment, didn't it? And I'm interviewing Dom DiAgostino soon. And I interviewed him
Amazing.
years ago and he was great. And I
Yep.
think I reached out to him after he was on Joe Rogan's podcast. And I'm really interested to know where he thinks that's gone as well, because originally he was looking at for therapeutic reasons,
Right.
kids with epilepsy, all that sort of thing. But I
Yep.
just sense that pure keto is not what it used to be in our world.
Yeah, I agree. I think when you look at the research behind keto and seizures and epilepsy and just we're basically Dom is the OG. He's
Mm,
the OG and he's like, I know I'm doing this for a therapeutic cancer standpoint. It is absolutely amazing. My friend's going through cancer or she has cancer right now. She's using keto for cancer.
mm,
But the thing is she's doing it the right way. And I think the media and this diet culture will take something and just morph it into something that will turn into something that will affect me like this. Like, oh, fat doesn't make you fat. You can eat as much keto as you want, even if it has seed oils and
yeah.
erythritol and it's not organic. There's a bunch of chemicals in it. It's fine because it's a keto cookie, so I can eat it,
Yeah.
and then we end up getting so off track that we don't know what happens. So I
Yeah.
think keto has a time and a place if you're doing it right. But like Dr. Pompa says, anything for you do one thing for too long, you got to switch it up. And that's why, I think the keto is incredible for a lot of people who are severely obese or going through like a major shift, going from sugar to, getting off the sugar. I think it's amazing. But man, if you've got shit going on in your life, that can easily turn into a binge eating disorder because for me, I wasn't getting enough protein with keto. It was all fat. So I was eating all this fat and I never had enough protein.
Yeah.
So once I switched to more of a high protein, more on the carnivore side, where it's like grass fed beef 3 times a day and just got my
Three
fat from
times a day you're eating grass-fed beef.
yeah, 2 to 3 times a
Wow.
day. Yep. Well, I do CrossFit 5 days a week and cold plunge and do hot yoga. So I definitely am more active. But as a female who has been too low on protein her whole life, holy shit. If you check out Gabrielle Lyon, she has a podcast and a book called Forever Strong, and she talks about this where women are not getting enough protein and it's leading to binge eating disorders. So even if you are doing keto, you're not getting enough real food protein, not whey protein, not protein from, the fat bombs. I'm talking real whole food, grass-fed, grass-finished beef. That was my issue. And once I changed that and just went, you know what, maybe I don't need this much fat. Maybe I actually need protein. And I upped that to, I'm probably, 150 grams of protein a day. Maybe 130 to 150 depending on how active I am. But she recommends 30 to 50 grams per meal. And with keto, it's like 15 grams, 20 grams per meal. And so I think that was the issue with if women could just have a grass-fed burger for breakfast with an egg on top and some avocado and a lettuce wrap, eating that for breakfast with some sea salt 3 times a day would shift their binge eating disorders so much. I mean, it did for me, but that's the problem. Women are eating these keto, they're fasting in the morning and they're getting dehydrated and then they'll binge eat because they're not getting enough protein. And I think once I shifted that was oh man, and a bunch of other things, which we talk in the summit, but
do you eat chicken as well?
I do, but it does not fill me up. Like I feel okay, but grass-fed beef makes me feel calm and grounded. And I don't think about food. I don't crave food. I'm not thinking about my next meal. I'm just like, I feel so freaking nourished. And I didn't feel like that on chicken.
Yeah.
I think it's just the nutrient density of grass-fed beef just is the alpha. And once you switch those things, lights out, game over. It changed everything for me. And I'm so passionate about it. I know it's going against the typical norm of, intermittent fasting, but fasting didn't work for me because it just led to a binge eating disorder where I would fast on bulletproof coffee. And then I would be so dehydrated because I didn't have enough salt that I would, 1:00 would hit and I'd eat all my calories and just binge eat,
Yeah.
So
what's your routine now?
Yeah. So now I go to CrossFit at 6 a.m. and I don't eat anything before CrossFit, but I'll do like salt, aminos, monovitality, some superfood, just make a huge concoction of hydration. And then I'll do CrossFit. I'll come home and make an amazing shake, which I showed you on that guide, which is full fat coconut milk, collagen, MCT powder, colostrum, grass-fed bone broth protein powder from Paleo Valley, which is amazing, especially if you're trying to anti-age.
Wow.
That's amazing. And then a cup of ice and an organic espresso. And it's the yummiest, amazing, seed oil free, nourishing shake. And then I'll just have beef and beef like for lunch, dinner with, sometimes I crave a little bit of roasted vegetables or a little bit of like roasted sweet potato or roasted carrots. So I'll roll that in around my cycles or around really hard workouts. I'll have honey at night and some berries and that's it. And then I have like one whole food little healthy donut treat that I'll have that doesn't have any seed oils in it. But that's it. Like I mean, I've gotten rid of all the processed stuff, the keto cereals, the
keto cereals, that erythritol. Inulin, I don't know what inulin is, but it really makes me feel so bad. Xylitol, terrible on my stomach. Chicory fiber, worst.
Yeah, and they claim it as something healthy, and it's like, guys, if it's processed, I mean, trust me, I was addicted to that stuff too. So once I finally just found something that was whole food that nourished myself, which adding the protein will make you not even crave all that snacky shit. Game over. And so again, it's more of a modified carnivore. Not that I want to give it like a name, but it is more higher grass-fed beef protein with supplements and some berries and some honey and some vegetables when I crave it. And I've never felt better. And I feel like it's the Willy Wonka golden ticket. It's just like, get that grass-fed beef up and watch it change, watch your life change. Yeah.
Wow. I know there's going to be a lot of women listening to this who are going to want to sign up for the summit after hearing that, actually.
Yeah. It's free. So if you want to watch it, it's whatwecrave.com and it runs all the time. So yeah, just jump in and watch it. I also have that health optimization guide. If anybody wants it with like what I do now with all the supplements and my regimen now, if anybody needs it, I don't have it anywhere, but if anybody wants to reach out, I could email it to them, but I'm just here to help, so whatever I can do for your audience, let me know. I'll send it to them.
Yeah. So. What's your website?
It's whatwecrave.com.
Whatwecrave.com. Okay. Well, people can find you there and they can get all the content. So listen, something I ask everyone on this podcast, what is one book that you'd recommend and one tip for living with more energy and vitality? Because obviously when I met you, I was still on the way back, really, because I'd had this tropical virus that had seen me in bed for 3 months, which is why I got started with all this. Yeah. So before that, I wasn't interested in health. I was just interested in partying. I was a very unhealthy lifestyle. So,
I know we've both come a long way, right?
Yeah.
We've both come so far.
Yeah.
I would say, oh man, the biggest game changer for me, this is a long time ago, but Joe Dispenza, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. It's still chalked with highlighters and notes, every page, just highlight on how to change your life, and it's all starts with your mind. And it is a game changer. And then what was the second question?
One tip for living with energy and vitality.
Oh man. There's so many. How do I do just one, Tony? Well, besides the grass-fed beef game changer, for me, I would say the gateway was my supplement game was sleep, getting my sleep dialed. I know that sounds too easy, but upgraded formulas. I don't know if you've met Barton Scott. He's at all the conferences.
I have. Yeah. I think he's been on this podcast. Yeah.
Probably has. He's not been on all of them, but man, upgraded formulas, that sleep, if you understand what getting good sleep means, it'll change your life. So that for me, because when I didn't have sleep, it doesn't matter what supplements I was taking, how healthy I was, my workouts, everything went to shit. So if you can lock in your sleep and dial it into where you get solid sleep, even if you have a child and it's only 5-6 hours, but it's deep sleep, it changes everything. And then one of my most favorite supplements that I've added into my stack is Mana Vitality. I don't know if you've heard of Mana, but that one's changed the game too. Adding it in with my salt, with my electrolytes. It's like, it turns on your entire body and you're just pumping with vitality. You should try it. I should introduce you to them. It's a newer product this last couple of years, but it is a game changer. It also increases your pheromones. And so it's just like, kind of like, if you're single, it's a good thing. Let's put it that way. Cause you have this energy that shifts.
Wow.
Yeah. You got to check it out, but that's a game changer.
That's hilarious.
My two favorite things. Yeah. You want to talk about vitality? Look at Mana. Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's great.
So many supplements. And I've actually reduced a lot of my supplements, like way down. I used to take way too many, but I try and get the supplements that give you a 10x result with one supplement that gets to the root of vitality. So yeah, that's definitely one to check out. So, we go all day on this stuff.
Oh, so. We could. Yeah. Yeah. And as you were saying, Dr. Pompa saying, doing the same thing for an ever and ever, you got to mix it up. I mean, that is something I'm going to think about, because when it comes to supplements, there are some things that I've introduced that have been total game changers, but there's some things that are just part of my routine. I haven't actually sort of tested for a while whether reducing them or removing them would actually make a difference. So I guess I could have a think about that, actually.
Yeah. I mean, he always recommends cycling. But I do know there's things that we need every day too, like Ion Gut Health with Dr. Zach Bush, protecting yourself from glyphosate. Like there's just non-negotiables,
Do you
right?
use that?
But that's definitely in my stack.
No, I don't use that. I used it when it was called, what was it called? It was called
Restore.
Restore. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm pretty sure he was at the Bullet. He's been on my podcast as well, but I just don't use it. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's because it's such a simple product that people underestimate it. But then once you actually realize what it is, like the depths of what's inside that product. That's where I had to just really dive into what it's doing, because glyphosate, it's everywhere. And once you have it's basically a bulletproof vest to glyphosate. And once you have that, and the deep dive on it, I worked for that company, so I had the deep dive, but
of course you did. Yeah. That's how I knew about it. Yeah.
yeah. But it's,
do you still?
A lot of, yeah, I do. There's some days
great.
I'm not perfect. I mean, I don't work for the company, but I'm still good friends with Zach. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Still good friends with Zach. But, once you understand like the depth of that product, it just tastes like water. So people they're like, is this doing anything?
Yeah.
But it's that one's a game changer too. Cause how bad my gut was bloated. And that was one of the products that changed it for me. Yeah. And also I had to remove the erythritol and the dairy, but that helped my gut so much. Yeah. So
that's great. And here in Portugal, the organic range is a little bit less. On the upside, there's a lot more sort of locally grown food around, but you still don't know in terms of the pesticides or even the glyphosate, whether it's there or not. So that sort of thing is a nice thing to have. And that's another thing I'm going to look into again. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if you're getting your food from organic local farms, that don't use pesticides or glyphosate, it's, versus in the US here, it's just everywhere. It's in your water. It's in your shower water. It's in the air, it's a different game over here. But Zach always just recommends eating whole organic food, from a local farmer. You can get all that soil intelligence, from that and that microbiome from that local farmer. But that's the way it should be. We shouldn't need a supplement to protect us from glyphosate. What you're doing is actually right. It's just in the US, it's a little bit different here.
Well, there's some local farmer, there's some sort of cheap supermarket stuff. So I'm not doing it all right.
Hey, it's always a journey. That's for sure.
It certainly is. Errin, it's so nice to catch up.
I know.
Let's do this again in a few months, because I just think we could just sort of pick one area and have a chat on it, and it'd be great.
Oh yeah, anytime you want me to jump on, I'm here. Anything I can do to help your audience, and just it's always so fun with you. And I just want to say thank you. I mean, I remember the moment I met you at the Bulletproof Conference. You were just such a kind, warm, friendly, beautiful light that was just so. I was just like, who is this awesome human that just sat right next to me? You're just so amazing. I just want to really honor you for just your authenticity and just that beautiful light and that warmth that you have, because, it's a gift, and a lot of people don't have that. And I see that in you, and just keep shining, because people need you. Especially we need more men like you in this world who are talking about these topics and are a beautiful light that are willing to get vulnerable and talk about all this stuff, and I just really appreciate you for that. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. We had some good times at the Bulletproof Conference. Well, you must come to London for the Health Optimization Summit now.
It's on my list. So maybe I'll be seeing you sooner than the universe will make it happen, I guess, because that's how it is with us.
Well, you are good at connecting people, so maybe that's the role.
I'll take that as a sign. So I'll put it out there. Yeah. So okay. I'm just pumped to hang with you. So thank you for everything. It's been so fun.
Absolutely. And likewise, look, I've got your health optimization guide in front of me. Highly recommend anyone reach out. It's got your daily routine. It's not too Mark Wahlberg. Don't worry. She's not up at 2 a.m. doing 45 minutes of cryotherapy before dawn. It's okay. It's not that. And everything else you do, highly recommend people check you out. What Instagram, is it That Health Chick?
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Great. All right. Yep. Lovely to talk.
So much love to you.
That is pretty much it for this podcast. Thank you for listening. Just before I go, a quick word to my podcast partners. And it is a podcast partner focused on stress, or rather how to help you deal with stress. Stress is a common factor that affects everyone in today's fast-paced world, leading to a lot of issues. And what if the answer to stress is a better stress response? And by a better stress response, you include a key nutrient. I'm talking about magnesium, and specifically Magnesium Breakthrough by BIOptimizers. It is a one-of-a-kind product which helps you with healthy levels of stress hormones like cortisol. A better balanced stress response to your nervous system and hormonal system, and healthy production of GABA, the relaxing neurotransmitter, leading to a more peaceful and better flow state. And when I spoke about this on the podcast recently, I said I'd run out of Magnesium Breakthrough. I've now taken delivery of my new batch. So if you go to biooptimizers.com/Zestology and use the code Zestology10, you will get 10% off. And in fact, you'll get 10% off the whole range. That is biooptimizers.com/Zestology. And if you go to the biooptimizers.co.uk site or anywhere around the world, use that code Zestology10, you'll get 10% off. And see how your stress levels are once you start taking magnesium. That is pretty much it. Plenty more on Instagram. Another excellent podcast next week coming up with previous guest and probably would it be possible to say the best known name in the keto and low carb diet space, Dominic D'Agostino has been on this podcast before. He's absolutely brilliant. You will have heard him talk before on the keto diet, but I've got a whole new batch of questions and he's been doing a whole load of new experimentation on himself. So he will be next week. Until then, have a zesty week.